Hi kids, it's Mrs. Fravel. How are you? Good, me too. That's fine. Okay, today we're going to talk about the last concept in marine ecology. We're going to talk about how energy moves through marine ecosystems. Most of this should be review for you, unless you were one of the lucky ones who took biology in the year 2020 because of the quarantine. We did not get to this. So if you have any questions about this, please reach out to me. Let me know and I can clarify some stuff for you if it wasn't something that you got in biology. But everybody else, this should mostly be review. We're just going to specify some differences in trophic structure in the marine ecosystems, okay? And this will become important as we continue because we will be building food webs for all of the ecosystems that we study throughout the rest of the semester, okay? All right, here we go. So how does energy flow through a marine ecosystem and what does that even mean? Okay, so energy and matter both flow through all ecosystems, and what that looks like and what that means is energy originates from the sun in most cases, in most ecosystems. There are a few examples and I'm going to describe those for you in a few minutes, but energy coming from the sun is actually converted into chemical energy inside living tissues, right? You remember from biology, mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria take the sugars that are built by autotrophs like plants. They take the energy from the sun and they convert that into chemical energy locked into sugars. And then in animal tissues or in mitochondria in the cells, that sugar is broken apart and used for ATP energy. So that's how energy is actually like quantified. That's its actual structure in a body, okay? Matter is everything else. It's all of the essential macronutrients that living tissues need to build themselves and maintain themselves and metabolically run a body, okay? Trophic structure is how energy flows from organism to organism through an ecosystem, okay? Trophic just basically means energy, okay? We quantify these and show them as a food chain and a food web. And in a food chain, we have two different basic kinds of organisms. We have producers, those are the organisms that make their own food, autotrophs, and we have consumers, those are heterotrophs, they gotta eat. Oh, there's too many clicks on this, I don't know why, bear with me. Okay. So energy in organisms is not completely passed on to the organism that eats it. Let me see if I can say that a little bit better. So energy is obtained by a heterotroph when they eat. A heterotroph will eat another organism, either a plant or another animal, and they absorb the energy and the matter from that organism and incorporate it into their own body. Pretty much most to all of the matter in nutrients will translate over to whoever is eating. However, not all the energy does, okay? On average, 10% of the energy in a body is lost to the environment. 90% is lost to the environment. Only 10% of the energy available in a body is actually absorbed and utilized by the organism, the animal that is eating it, okay? So we represent this in a pyramid of energy, okay? And why doesn't it all pass or all translate over? Because of physics. I don't know. Fravel doesn't do math or physics. All I know is that the heat from a body, as it's doing its metabolic processes, as it's going about eating and moving and escaping predators, that energy is lost to the environment through the laws of thermodynamics, and it is degraded in the environment and not used by the consumer, okay? So again, this is a pyramid of energy. So all energy in every ecosystem, except for a couple of places where there's exceptions. The sun is the original source of energy in all ecosystems, right? That energy is used by primary producers to build sugars. They also use the nutrients, macronutrients provided by decomposition to build their body tissues. And when they are eaten, the next level in the trophic pyramid absorbs 10% of their energy, most of their matter. That 90% of that energy is just lost to the environment. And so as we go up, we have to decrease by a factor of 10 how much energy is actually at that trophic level, okay? Again, too many clicks. I don't know why. Okay, so what this looks like in a community, in an ecosystem, is that we have kind of this bottom-heavy pyramid in terms of the number of organisms at each trophic level, and I'll talk about the trophic levels in a minute. At the base of every ecological pyramid, we have our producers, and they represent the largest amount of biomass in an ecosystem. So, for example, if we have phytoplankton, which are microscopic algae that float in the water and they photosynthesize from the sun, half of the air that you breathe is made by phytoplankton. If we have 10 million calories worth of phytoplankton in an ecosystem, that 10 million is going to support 1 million calories of krill, okay? Because of the 10% rule, okay? You divide by 10 and you can calculate and predict how many organisms will be at each successive trophic level as you go up. So 1 million calories of krill can support or translates into 100,000 calories of whale, which is almost one whale. Okay, so this heat loss, this energy loss is not insignificant. It makes our energy food webs look like pyramids. We have much fewer large and predatory and apex predatory animals at the top of our pyramids just because we only have so many calories available to be passed on. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about nutritional relationships. Who eats whom? This should all be pretty much review for you guys, but let's just remember. Autotrophs, or what we call producers, they make their own food. Herbivores eat plants, carnivores eat animals, omnivores eat everybody, and then we have detritivores. I'm gonna go right there. Detritivores and decomposers, these are the cleanup crew of an ecosystem, right? Detritivores eat dead stuff. They kind of go along like little vacuums and they clean up and eat whatever they want. A lot of crabs. Sea cucumbers are the best ocean vacuums. They clean up all the dead stuff. What they don't clean up, and also what is released as waste from animals, which is poo, those are then decomposed by bacteria in the ocean. Those bacteria will actually break down organic matter that's too small for decomposers to eat, and they return the nutrients to the environment to be taken up again by the producers and building tissues. Okay. You can see my TA Daisy just joined us. She's here to make sure I don't screw this up. The lower trophic levels, or here are the trophic levels in an ecological trophic pyramid. So the producers form the base of our pyramid. That's the biggest amount of biomass in any ecosystem. And producers include plants and algae for the most part. There's an exception. I'll get there. Phytoplankton, again, microscopic algae that produce their own sugars. We do have some vascular plants in the ocean, but not very many. Vascular plants don't do well in salt water. They don't like fluctuating salinity levels. There's some seagrasses that mostly are found in shallow tropical seas, but for the most part, it's macroalgae, which we'll talk about when we talk about the kelp forest ecosystem. That is the biggest obvious plant-like life. They're not technically plants, they are algae. And these form the basis of most of the food chains. And then at the primary consumer level, we have our herbivores. These are the ones that eat these guys down here. So we have zooplankton, which are microscopic and very small animals that eat phytoplankton for the most part. There are also a lot of fish and filter feeders that eat phytoplankton and also zooplankton. Then we have herbivorous fish like blue tangs, parrotfish. We also have invertebrate herbivores like snails, sea urchins. There are some fish, and then of course we do have the manatees. Manatees and green sea turtles are the seagrass munchers. Okay? And then we have the upper trophic levels. There I am. The secondary consumers feed on primary consumers. These are larger predatory fish, medium-sized predatory fish, and then we have the tertiary, quaternary, and apex level organisms. These are larger fish, also the large carnivorous mammals, and they eat pretty much anybody they can get their teeth on, right? There's always an apex predator in every ecosystem. And then humans, we take whatever we want, right? Okay, so let's talk really quickly about the weirdo ecosystems. So there are two situations where there's no sun, right? So in dysphotic and euphotic zones of the ocean, we talked about the zones of the ocean, right? In the dark parts, there isn't enough sunlight available for there to be producers that are plant-based. There's no photosynthesizing going on down there. But we do have ecosystems and we do have consumers down there. So what are they eating? They're eating marine snow. A lot of the primary consumers in some of these darker ecosystems are actually not eating plant life, they're eating dead stuff. They're detritivores, and marine snow is this kind of constant, flaky, lovely fall of organic matter that drifts through the water column from shallower areas. It's mostly dead tissue and poop. And that is what the primary consumers are eating down there, okay? And then we also have a situation called chemoautotrophy or chemosynthesizing, and that happens in the deepest, darkest of the ocean. A lot of times this is down in Hadal zone and the abyssal zone. We have volcanic vents, and around those volcanic vents, we have these thriving communities of organisms. And the basis for that ecosystem is actually chemosynthetic bacteria. And the bacteria form mats around the hydrothermal vents where there's hot water and hydrogen sulfide coming out of the earth at a volcanic vent. And those bacteria will use the hydrogen sulfide as their catalyst to build their sugars. And then there are primary consumers like little crabs and little fish and little shrimps and clams that feast on the bacterial mats, and we get a food chain down there. Okay, so there's always exceptions. Nature finds a way, no matter what. Life is everywhere, and it's kind of amazing. Okay, all right, so how do we show all of this? So you guys have seen food chains before. Let's just make sure that you know how to read them. So food chains are a group of organisms linked together by their nutritional relationships from producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, and on up to our apex predators. Okay. What you want to make sure is that when you read a food chain and a food web, which I'll explain in a minute, that you're reading it properly. When you see the arrows, they should always point in the direction that the energy is flowing, okay? It isn't that the phytoplankton are eating zooplankton, it's that the phytoplankton's energy is flowing to the zooplankton when the zooplankton eat the phytoplankton. And the zooplankton's energy flows to these small fish that eat the zooplankton. These small fish's energy flows right on up until we get to the apex, in this case, shark. Okay? But no animal, not all, most animals don't eat or rely on a single food source, okay? There are a few, but not many. Most food chains don't exist alone. Most organisms eat more than one food, and so we get food webs. Okay, and we get these lovely interconnected, interrelated, everybody's eating everybody else in an ecosystem. And again, make sure that you read these properly. The arrows indicate energy flow. So at the bottom of this pelagic Antarctic, if there's a penguin, you know it's Antarctic. That's the giveaway, right? Because they only live in the south. So this Antarctic food web, we can see that there are many different connections. So phytoplankton are eaten by all kinds of organisms, from zooplankton like copepods and amphipods, and they're also eaten by krill. And then in turn, the krill are eaten by all kinds of other animals. You're going to watch a video for your assignment on all of the animals that rely on krill as a food source, okay? Right on up to the largest animal on the planet, the blue whale. They rely on krill, okay? So the energy from krill flows into all of these food chains to create a food web. Same with small fish and squid. They are exploited by lots and lots of mid-level predators. And then, of course, we have our apex predators, gotta love orcas, that are exploiting any large and small fish that they can find. Okay. Trophic cascades. I promised at the beginning of the year I would bum you out all the time. So what happens in a trophic pyramid and in the food web if a level is removed? Okay? We're seeing this happen a lot more in the real world now, mostly due to human interference. And removal of an organism means that either an entire species has gone extinct or functionally extinct, which means they're not reproducing enough to replace themselves. That can be global, which is extinction, or that can be local, which is extirpation. Okay? The trophic, what happens is we get effects on the level surrounding whatever level was removed, if that makes sense. So the trophic level above that level will see decreased population numbers because one of their food sources is gone. Even if they are in a web, if something in the web is removed, it's going to shift the weight of that energy transfer onto something else. And that something else may not be able to support the numbers above it. Okay? So predators are affected when any one of their prey sources is gone. They will not, they are generally not able to find enough food, and their populations also decrease. On the other side of the pyramid, if a trophic level or an organism at a trophic level is removed, everything below it that it ate, that it relied on, will have a population increase, which that sounds great, right? Who doesn't want more stuff? The problem is the ecosystems naturally balance themselves with this whole circle of life food web thing. And if anything gets out of balance, there can be some pretty detrimental effects in the ocean. So two examples. One is in the kelp forest, and we'll talk more about this when we talk about the kelp forest. Sea otters were extirpated from the coast of California, coast of North America. They were hunted to what we thought was extinction in the early 1900s for their fur. Otters love to eat sea urchins. I don't know why, but they do. And they're really good at keeping the sea urchin population under control. What happens when the sea urchin population is not under control? You watched a sea urchin munching on kelp in one of my other videos, right? The kelp forests are decimated by an overpopulation of urchins. They eat so much kelp, the kelp can't regenerate fast enough, and kelp is really good at regeneration. But we've seen the effects in the kelp forests all along North America's west coasts. Okay? The second example is in how humans fish. We're really good at it. And 3 billion people on this planet rely on fish for their main protein source, which would be fine, but we've invented industrialized fishing, and we're going to talk more about that when we talk about the pelagic environment. So what has happened is humans over the last few hundred years with the advent of industrialized fishing, we just take everything out. And we have removed most of the large populations of large sports fish, tuna, mackerel, cod, all of those, we have culled a large percentage of the population. So what is happening is they are not there anymore. And the animals that eat them, we're seeing a decrease in their populations. And what's happening with humans is we are now what's called fishing down the food chain, where we are relying on smaller and smaller species for that food resource ourselves. And again, we're also seeing an explosion in some organisms that are getting out of balance and overpopulating their niche. Okay, so that's called a trophic cascade. Generally, the scientists will term it an actual cascade if 3 trophic levels are affected or out of balance in an ecosystem. And again, we mostly see this as a result of human action. Okay. Look, it's blank. Oh man, there's assignments. Okay, nothing terrible. Your assignments are on Canvas. You need to do the feeding frenzy. Super easy. The food web of krill. You're going to watch a video on what the food web of krill is, and then there's a quiz. Woohoo! And then we're done with ecology. Okay. Next week we'll start the coral reef unit. Super excited for that. I hope we get to do it in person at some point. We'll see. Have a great week. Have a good weekend. And if you need me, hit me up on Google Meet. The code is Fravel Bio. My office hours are posted on the homepage. Be good. Stay safe. Wear your masks so we can go back to school. Please. I don't care if you look like a dork. If you're hanging out with somebody, doing these assignments, have a mask on. Okay. See you later.